She knows she can
That was my slow, then quick end to that song. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. This is our last week. Actually, Wednesday is our last session of this entire series. It's been a 11-day series, and we're towards the end, guys. And today we have one of my favorites, one of my besties, Jamie Camrata. She is a team leader up in Andover, Massachusetts, and she is your instructor today. You guys, I hope you're ready for a little fun because she's fun. And she has Ashley here with us to answer chat, and then I'll be here obviously to co-host and jump in. So Jamie, you want to just dive right into our session 10 here, and we're talking all about net $1 million. We're going to talk about money and you and receiving $1 million. So Jamie, take it away.
Good morning. Thanks for the awesome introduction. All right, hopefully I can keep this entertaining and yet valuable to all of you. So if you are safely not driving and you can put your cameras on, please do so. This will be very interactive because nobody likes to be the person talking for 45 minutes, at least I don't. So we will be asking you to unmute yourselves, and then properly we'll be asking you to mute yourselves back so that we don't pick up any side conversation. So you know how this goes, it's 2021. So yes, today we are going to be talking about money and how we net $1 million, which is great, but then how do we receive $1 million, which is a different topic. So we're also going to go through a few things here. We're going to talk about sticking to your budget, staying focused on your top 20%, your goals, how money works for you and how you work for money, working on your business, in your business. So there's so much in this short time frame. So I'm going to go quick, and you can always watch the recording after. Okay, excellent. So money. So as we know, for the most part, when you ask yourself about money, it's either you want money or time in your business. And as a team leader, when we ask this to top agents, most of the time, if you're a $10 million producer or more, you're looking for time, where if you're under 10 million, you're really kind of looking for the money because you're still trying to figure it out. So how many of you have asked yourself, or ask yourself right now, if you had the option of time versus money, what would be better for you in your business right now based on what you do? So some of you would probably say time and some would say money. So in order to do that, besides learning about the economic model and the budgeting model that we've already talked about during the series, we also have to learn how to stick to our budget, which is always great, right? Because in personal, how many of you really stick to your budget in personal? Because as a team leader, I can say, I don't know if I do. I definitely think that there's times that I have moments where I can go off of my budget and buy something or go on a special trip. So in order for you to eventually follow the MREA blueprint, you really have to stick to a budget model, both in personal and business, which is hard to do because the more money you make, the harder it is to stick to the budget because you have to spend more money to make more money, or that's what we're taught. You have to be smart with your money, and you have to make smart decisions in terms of where the money is going to be allocated and whether or not in your business do you really need it. So being in a leadership role here in a market center, as you all know here at Keller Williams, we're always cutting the budget. Not because we're cheap, by the way. We cut the budget because of profitability. We cut the budget because we're very strict about budget and planning each year on where we're going to allocate our money. And then we do a budget review halfway through the year. So how many of you, show of hands, actually do a budget review? Well, let's start here. How many of you really have a budget? Okay, so the other people.
Elena, that's still a half. I thought I'd challenge you to make that a full budget. I saw that.
Seriously.
Sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
No, that's, you know what though? This is what it is. I mean, just be honest. You have to play full on 2 feet in today, right? So there's a reason why you allocated your time from 8:30 to 8:40, 9:15. So I really hope when you leave here that you're fired up and you're going to actually put an action plan in place. And if that action plan really is, I've never created a budget. Okay, well then you're going to start now. And it's very simple. You have to really look at what you want and what your goals are. And then you have to back into it, which is a different conversation that we're not going to get into detail about. But your team leaders, your MCAs, and all of your leadership team are there to help you. Please reach out to us and just let us know that you want a 30-minute conversation about it. So as your business gets bigger, your expenses get bigger. And so that's why you have to really watch your money. So besides doing a review annual budget, you do a half-year budget. So your ALC, by the way, 6 months into being on your ALC, if anyone's on the ALC here, you know that we do a budget review. We take a look at the budget to see if we're on task, if we've overspent in areas, why we did it, and why we should change it. We can even make cuts halfway through the year and say, you know what, we have all this money here, say in this career fund or the recruiting fund or whatever, whichever one it is, and say, you know, we really don't have to allocate that much money to it. Let's watch that, take that and put that here. Or more profitability is going back into the owner profit, which means profitability is going back into your pocket. So as we move on with this, so you should have 2 accounts when doing business. And this becomes, I think, very overwhelming to agents when we say, do you have a profit and loss? Do you know your numbers? Do you know your business? I have to be honest, as a team leader, even the top leaders out there who even have teams, sometimes they don't know their numbers and they really don't know how much they're spending. Jen, how many times have you met with agents? It doesn't matter if they've done 1 transaction or 75 transactions. Sometimes they're just working so much in their business that they have no idea. They're just paying their bills, thinking they're living the life that they're meant to live, and just hustling, paying college bills, mortgage, tuition, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's more than you actually even know. Like the person, I think Corinna actually brought this up on one of the calls. The person driving up to the listing appointment with a really high-end car, most of the time is just living to pay the bill of that high-end car and not wealth building and not thinking long-term. Right. So you're absolutely right. Spot on.
And I think that they pride on that gross versus net. So they think they're grossing all this money. So they went out and bought that Mercedes or that nice car. But when they're really writing their taxes and writing the money that they need to give back to the government come, January, February, honestly, they're doing the same thing as many of you are on the call. And you're like, I just need to get 1 transaction closed to make this much money to pay to the government. So we're in a commission-based business. So sometimes our commissions are already spent and allocated towards what you want to do, when really you're supposed to be designing the life that you want, then funding it. You're not supposed to be figuring out the funding first and then trying to design it. That's where it really gets messy. And honestly, that's where a lot of businesses implode. And that's when people check out and then it just goes like this and then they hit rock bottom. Okay. So in business, should you have 2 accounts? Yes. At the beginning, do you need 2 accounts? No, but why not start off with a healthy foundation and know that if you have a deposit fund and an operating fund, that would be best. So the commissions that go into your deposit are here, but how much do you need to operate your business? As a new agent, you really don't know because you don't know what you don't know yet. A couple transactions in, you're gonna realize how much you're actually spending. When I talked about time at the beginning of the call, we also talk about how much is your time worth? Now, I never, again, understood this until becoming a team leader. We do these exercises and what are you really worth per hour? So when you really chunk things down, and we're going to be talking a lot about chunking things down, okay? We're going to be talking about 411s, which is a big chunk down on our time management calendar. When you chunk down how much you're worth and take a listing appointment, from driving to the listing appointment, to having the conversation, to listing the property, to all the money that you spent on it, all the time, all the phone calls, all the emails, and you add up all that, and your commission, say, was $10,000, you have to divide that money into how many hours you put into it to see what your worth is. Oh, wait. And then either at the beginning or the end, you still have to minus the 30% that you have to give to the government, which we all forget. And I see some people laughing right now, but it's totally true. We forget that because we get this cool commission check deposited into our account and you're not taking out funds first. If you're not taking out funds first, it means you're afraid. You're living the check by check because you really haven't stopped and understood your big why or what your goals are. So if you went back to the beginning of the book, and some of you are putting this together, some of you, again, go back to your team leader, talk to one of your agents. If you don't know what your big why is, for most top agents, their big why is personal development. It's personal growth. As they personally grow, they start to figure out what their big whys really are. Because I think that we're the only company, I mean, be honest with yourselves. When has anyone ever asked you straight out, what do you really want? What does Claire want? What does Courtney want? What does Melissa want? What do you want? No one's ever really asked me what I want. I just do what my kids tell me to do, right? Or what my spouse tells me to do, or what it like, I don't know what I want. And it's a big conversation. So you don't know what your big why is because you've been just working in your life all day long. You haven't gone through that personal growth part to work on your life. And we're gonna be talking about this in business in a few minutes here, because you just get stuck in the everyday. And that's why we constantly are asking agents and anybody who owns their business, like, what does it look like? What do you want? What's your goal? What's your vision? Oh, and by the way, life happens. You can change your goal and vision, can you not? Yes. Yes, it can change. It 100% can change because life circumstances happen. And then maybe you were, in January, how many of us in January set big goals for ourselves in personal and business? I'm gonna lose 40 pounds this year. I'm 7 pounds in, by the way, and we're in June, okay? I'm going to sell this many homes this year. I'm going to net this much. I'm going to gross this much. I'm going to buy this car. I'm gonna go on this many family trips, whatever those goals are. Well, come June, really evaluate all of those goals. Did you do them? No, I didn't. But it doesn't mean that you're failing, by the way. It just means that you have to reevaluate and then readjust the goals. Okay, so when it comes to budgeting and operating expenses and knowing your money, who holds you accountable financially? Because you can't hold yourself accountable financially. Just like for many of you, whether it's weight loss, business growth, you have a coach. It's really hard to do something. You're going to hit a point or a lid where, no, I can do it. I can eat healthy. I can go to the gym. I have it. And that's great. And you get on track and that momentum is great until what? Until you hit this point where you can't do it anymore on your own and you've hit a plateau, but you really want to go to the next level because you've always hit this point, right? We've always hit this point, and then naturally we self-sabotage ourselves. Oh, I can treat myself here. Oh, it's 4th of July here. And then by the scale in December 31st, you're like, what happened? Okay. And in business, it's the same thing. Most of the agents in the summer, they do the same thing. They go to the beach, they take time off. Instead of prospecting, it's a beautiful 90-degree day today in Monday. Where are they? At the beach, at their girlfriend's house, having lunch, and they didn't prospect. But the agent that prospected today, what happens? It's 3 hours. Go ahead, Corinne.
Okay. They've got a lead.
Yeah, 100%. And I love the positive attitude. Of course they have a lead. 3 hours of lead gen, to be honest with you, if anyone at a high level is lead genning for 3 straight hours making phone calls and you don't have a lead, please reach out to me. Reach out to Jen, reach out to Tim, and any other leadership person that I can't see on the first page and on page 2 and 3. Reach out to your leadership team. The conversations that you're having might not be the right conversations, but 3 hours, absolutely, you're having a lead. So we talk about a red light, green light concept. How many of you read that during this time? Okay, who wants to participate here and tell me what the red light, green light concept is?
Red light, green light is every dollar you use, you look at it and see if it's bringing you the profit that you wanted it to bring, or it's bringing you what it was determined that it was supposed to bring you. So if it's not bringing it to you, you have to figure out why. Is it because you don't need it, or is it because you're not using it properly?
Right. So it's impulse spending, right? Are we impulsively spending, or did we budget what we were supposed to spend? Basically is what it is. It is the habit of budgeting. And so that's really why it's important. As you move on through the chapters, you're going to read more so about improvement and you. Your business is a reflection of you, is it not? 100% is a reflection of you. And I think that's why a lot of real estate agents, sometimes they get nervous to go do what they need to go do, because it is a reflection of them. So they're afraid to talk to their sphere. They're afraid to talk to their family, but they don't mind lead generating out in a just sold, just listed, or under agreement. And then there are other people that are so confident in themselves that they start with the family and sphere first. So
Amy, can I jump in really quickly? So I just want to go back to the red light, green light, because it was interesting a year and a half ago, or in March of 2020, how many of you looked at your expenses and cut as much as you could? Subscriptions, gym, all that. Anybody do that in 2020? Why did you do that during the pandemic? Someone come off mute. I want to highlight you.
Because we weren't sure what was going to happen, and we were trying to hold on to every dollar that we could.
That's right, Courtney. Nobody knew what was going to happen. So everybody hunkered down and did it. It was the vacation effect. It was, okay, I'm ready to go on vacation. I have to get everything done I need to get done, and it gets done. And that's what happened with your budget during the pandemic. So why are we waiting for a pandemic to look at our budget again? I think that's what Jamie's talking about here. And that's the importance of what we're looking at is, don't let 6 months go by and you really not know what's happening there. I could tell you, I did the same thing. I had Audible subscriptions. I had a Peloton subscription. I had all these subscriptions, and it added up to a lot of money. And I look at that regularly now. It's not just a once a year or once in a pandemic thing. It's a, let's look at this regularly, because those subscriptions really creep up on you, or the things that you just are not aware of. So really, when Jamie's talking about red light, green light, like really play that game with your expenses. How many of you could go in there today and find something you could cut? Anybody? Not even cut, guys. This is like making a phone call to your cable company and lowering your bill. Your cell phone, how many, do you know, you can negotiate your cell phone bill. All of those things are things that you could really, you laughing at me?
everything in life is negotiable, by the way.
Oh, okay.
We
All right.
think that it's not, but it is. But wait, to go to your point, there is a story in the book that, that talks about an agent who came down with cancer, relooked at their business, and they had the best year ever. And you're 100% right. Most of the time when we have to get real with ourselves, it's when life just hands it to you.
Well, and you have to, like you have no choice, but you have to deal with it.
Correct. You have no choice. And so I don't want to throw that at you, but I do challenge you for that moment to say the what ifs of life. What if this was my scenario? So when they give a couple of the scenarios in these chapters, and you know which one I'm talking about, read that one and say to yourself, what would happen? What would my business have to look like if I had to take 3 months off my business because of, God forbid, a medical leave, or because of this? Would it sustain? Who would take it over? Do you have the right hires? If you haven't hired anybody and you're a single agent, have you built the right relationships within your market center or with other agents that you could pick up the phone and say, Brandy, it's Jamie. I'm going to be out for 3 months. I'm really nervous. I have a couple things coming down the pike and I need your help. All right. One way or another, that's what you need to do. So as we move on, and I was going to share some slides here, but if you go in your books on page 255, we're going to talk about a little bit of goal to action in 80-20, and where are you spending your time will really actually show where your money's coming from and where it's not. So Karina made a good point there. And she's like, with the red light, green light, we're trying to figure out where the money's going. Well, the money's going where you're spending your time. Because if you're spending your time on lead generating, guys, then your money is going into a bank, which is then hopefully going into what we're going to talk about in terms of 7th level. It's going into passive income. It's going into stock investments. It's going into your next maybe goal, which is to buy that 4 family by the end of the year to have a wealth building portfolio. But one way or another, you're doing something about it. So when we talk about the 80-20 and where we're spending our time on the graph, the only way to be able to figure out where your time is being spent is by what? Watching your calendar. What are you doing during the day? What does it look like?
So you're saying tracking it. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying? Tracking it?
Focused, unfocused, like what are you doing during the day, folks? Listen, I challenge everybody here on this call to go be in an operating principal, team leader, MCA position for a week. And forget about the details of how to do it. I just want you to honestly be on the calls and in the meetings to learn something. If somebody was watching you the way that Texas watches us on our business, you would be sweating.
Well, why do they do that though? Why do they make sure that we're accountable to these meetings and all that? What's the reason behind it?
I know, I want somebody else to participate. Why would you think the 3 best hires, the only 3 hires that you really need at the beginning of a market center is
Well, I'm gonna tell everybody because I know we're short on time. It's because they're modeling the behavior that they want us to do, which means we are modeling the behavior we want you to do, because if they're running a huge successful business, that means we have the chance to run a huge successful business, which means you have a chance to run the same way. So everything that's in this book and what Jamie's talking about is the way that International runs. And they just leak it down to us. They spit it down to us and say, hey, here's how we're doing it. Go do it this way and see if it works for you. And does it typically work for us?
Yeah.
And does it typically work for agents? Because what we're doing is the same thing you're doing.
And it talks about this. So again, towards the end of these chapters that we read, we talk about key hires and leverage. And we've actually been talking about this through the entire month of the series. Leverage is key. I know what I'm good at, and I've accepted that and what I'm great at. And I know what I do not want to do. And let me tell you, to be honest, I don't want to see a spreadsheet. I just don't want to see spreadsheets. I want to look at them, but I don't want to fill them out, and I don't want to figure out how to calculate them. But I definitely want to comment on them, and I want to know my numbers. So let's be clear. All right.
All right. So you're saying you look at spreadsheets, but you don't create
I
spreadsheets.
don't create.
Okay.
Just like I'm not a marketing person. So you buyer agents and list agents, if marketing's not your thing, leverage it. There are sources of leverage. And by the way, I'd rather spend $40, $50 to say to somebody, please build a great listing sheet, a landing page, a smart plan, whatever it is, so that I can go do what I'm great at, which is my one-to-one meetings or lead generating, because that $40 in the end is really nothing. It actually helped me more than quadruple what I was going to make because I wasn't spending my time in the right area. And so in this chapter, we talk about, your calendar, and we talk about 411s and tracking and just chunking it down. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed. We use a lot of these acronyms here in Keller Williams, GPS, 411, 135. We have them all. And what I really mean by this is, what's your one goal this month? Okay, so if we just break it down and we want 40 units this year, how many units is that a quarter? Somebody tell me. 40, we want to close 40 in 1 year.
Anthony knows.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know. Just felt like a good time to put this in. If anyone wants, I am terrible with spreadsheet stuff as well. But I figured with this, you really need to track that. I found this video on YouTube, and it is an amazing spreadsheet. Amazing. It goes Google Sheet, and then it uses a Google form to send over all the information. So it's nice and easy. You don't have to type anything into like a little box, and if you click something, you mess it up forever. If anyone wants to know that, please reach out to me because I'll send you the video.
Anthony, why don't you put that in the chat? Just cut copy
I'll try to
paste
find it.
in the chat. Okay,
All right.
thank you. So yes, it's 10 per quarter. So if I chunked it down 10 per quarter, how many closings is that a month? That would be, say, about three and a half, 4, right? Okay, then if I know that I only closed 2 in January and I'm 1 behind, then I have to add that 1 to February, and it doesn't become so overwhelming. It becomes overwhelming when I created a goal of 40 at the beginning of the year, and I'm only at 10 right now, and it's July 1st. Now I start getting into my head. All right, and we talk about in here counterbalancing your life to maintain a high level. Yes, you have to have a positive mindset. Life happens, we didn't do this, regroup, readjust. So the 411 just breaks down what you're doing and where you're spending your time. All right, don't be afraid of all the lines. Don't be afraid. Use a blank piece of paper. What's my one goal this week? 10 phone calls, add 10 connects, jump on the KW New England Tech Series, make sure I finish off MREA strong, and add 20 people to my database. And I am determined to get a contract, exclusive listing, buyer, agreement, contract, whatever it is, go. Now in the 411, it talks about action plans and like, okay, Jamie said go. What did you want me to do? That's your action. What are you supposed to be doing is how you're holding yourself accountable on those sheets. Does this make sense? Yes?
Yes, Courtney has a question in here and she said, so if lead generation isn't her strong suit, is it worth investing in those programs that do the lead generating for you?
Here's my opinion as a team leader. Number one, I don't know you, so I would have a 20, 30-minute conversation and ask you, what does lead generating look like for you? Because I feel as though that everyone thinks lead generating is just hammering the phones, and it's not. There are different ways to lead generate. And so first we'd have that conversation. Now, if we got through all of that and we realized that you don't like to be behind social media on posts, you don't want to send the emails, you don't want to make the phone calls, yada, 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 but you still want to be in this industry, you have an option. Sure, you want to write a check and pay for leads or pay for somebody to make the phone calls to do so. By all means, if it's not where you're comfortable, you have to get business somehow. But before I do that, I definitely would be having a conversation on breaking some stuff down and doing a 60-day trial and error on all different categories of lead generating for you before you gave up in terms of just purchasing it.
So it's not necessarily me. I don't mind calling. I don't mind picking up the phone. I can pick up the phone and have people yell and swear at me for 2 hours. Facebook and Instagram, I'm not really the best at, but I mean, I see them all the time, like the advertisements on Facebook and Instagram. And it's like, well, if I'm seeing these, then like, is it worth it? Like, is it worth it to just add it on to what I'm already doing? So
Right.
I don't know.
So sometimes, so think about this, and this has nothing to do with MREA. We're going to go off script for 1 minute here, but it's subconscious, guys. It's subconscious marketing. Think about it. So yeah, maybe the Steve Madden shoes always show up in my Facebook and I'm like, ooh, I can't afford it on my budget model, but I kind of always want it. And so I'm always thinking about it because. It's the same thing with the lead. It's there, you're thinking about it. It looks tempting. And by all means, it looks like the easy thing to do. No problem. I'll spend $100 or 200 and try it out. I'm just a firm believer that if you spent the time on yourself to figure out, just to at least figure out where you're good at lead generating, what your natural talent is, what your adaptive talent would be, what you're willing to do to push the adaptive, then I would be like, fine, click. But don't, again, it's almost like the 80-20, but it's opposite. You spend the time on you. That personal growth of high leaders that I told you about, personal development, every person has gone through this question. It's so easy. Oh, if I can just purchase this Amazon Prime, purchase, and then tomorrow it's here, let's go.
Yeah, so what I would say is I would exhaust all resources first before spending and investing into that. Meaning I'm going to call my vendors because I know that's an easy call to set up a meeting with. I know I'm going to call my friends and family. Some people actually don't want to call their friends and family and they rather call people they don't know, whatever that is, just like Jamie says, just exhaust all options of lead generating before you dive into spending money on it, because you're not going to see your rate of return, your ROI on that instantly. It's going to take 90 days. And can you afford that for 90 days without having any results? So what I would say is social media is great. It's free to post. If it's not your strong suit, it's okay. Just put some, like we're doing these Monday calls, by the way. I don't know if you guys are on the Monday calls, but the Monday calls give you every piece of content you need. Thank you, Erica Aruda, who's on the call right now, for helping us with that. We give you the social media. So if you don't have the ability to create something, use what we have, because you know what, remember that creativity model, that triangle? And you could either have the triangle where the base is down or the tip is down. Which one do you want to start with? Anybody remember? Courtney, do you remember that? don't start upside down. Make sure that the triangle is on its base, meaning that there are people before you and have done everything before you. Don't recreate the wheel, just use what we have. And that's the great thing here, is that we have so much to provide for you and give you. You don't even have to think about it. So,
all right, so this is because that's when our company is working for you. Okay, so the difference between active and passive income we read about in the MREA during our chapters. And this is a great point to go into about how it actually works for you. See, if you're not great at creating content and marketing, you're right. That call on Mondays is like, it's the 2.0 bonus call. They're giving you exactly what you need to put in an email, exactly what you need to text, and exactly what you were put on social media. And only 25% of you actually do it. Now, a lot of you are thinking, I don't speak that language. It doesn't sound like it came from me. Let me tell you something. It doesn't have to sound like it came from you. Here's the thing. It's better than nothing. Right now, you're putting out nothing because you're getting ready to think about the great email or the content that you want to put out because you're thinking about, let me go research and think about, just do it. And this is a leverage piece where it's going to work for you. So the company's working for you to make money. Because if you post it and if you bet on the calls, we've tracked the people that are doing it. And they're amazed. They're like, oh my God, so-and-so reached out. I got a Facebook message. They're getting business out of it, which means now the company and the model and the systems are now working for you while you're working on what you need to work on. Okay. So we talk about moving into that besides the leads and the Monday calls, right? Passive income versus active, and working on your business versus working in your business. We all work in our business every day. Eventually, the goal is to work on your business so that you're sitting in Italy with your family while someone's running your business. And
so Jamie, Elena has a question. I want to make sure we get to her before you go into this next section.
Yeah, it's actually, I want to say that the way it's just a comment. I want to say that the way the company presented the materials for the agents, it's amazing. I work with the different companies, and this feed of the leads that can come from the traditional model versus the way this company is teaching to do the business, it's amazing, because whatever the company is teaching, it's sustainable. You're not depending, it's depending just on you. And the best things that company does is actually just do it. Don't think it, just do it.
We're making it easy for you, right? We're giving you that easy button. Just do it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. All right.
All of you, Elena. Like, it's not being created by Big Blue on what they think it should look like. It's actually top agents, top leaders, putting in their opinions, raising their hands, and then we're taking what they're doing at a high level, sharing it, and spreading the wealth and doing it. So you're 100% right. I love that comment, and thank you. So when we talk about the passive income and the active income, we're talking about when you work for your money versus when money works for you. Okay, and so your time here at Keller Williams with the models and systems and Ignite 2.0 and these tech series right now, by the way, this is going to work for you. This is going to work for you if you implement and take one thing, chunk it down, one thing that you haven't done. It's very overwhelming. Pick one. So we're going to talk about growing and organizing your business as well for the next 10 minutes, because I know that we end at 9:15. And I really want to talk about that receiving. So we can net $1 million, but receiving $1 million, it doesn't just happen. And it tells you right in the book that unless you're a trust fund baby and somebody has like a will sitting here that's just going to hand all this money to you, then you're going to either A, have to work for it, or B, you're going to have to get creative on passive income streams or where you put your money in stocks and whatnot for you to retire properly. So you're an independent contractor. You're not working for an Oracle or a Microsoft. So when we're done working, what do we have? What is your 401k look like? What does your bank account look like? What do your investments look like to carry you on so that you can actually, enjoy whatever years of life you have left. And there's the difference. So getting that key hire in your business is the game changer. And I didn't even think about this. I've been a team leader for almost 7 years. And I thought to myself, wow, I always think about it from the agent point of view in this book about your 3 key hires have to be the 3 people within 3 feet, right? Of that they're always in your circle. They're your best 3 key hires, and you want them there for at least 5 years. And you want to create such a big why and such a big value proposition that they'll grow into that, and then they'll grow into their next role. And then I thought, wow, our market center has 3 people, an operating principal, a TL, and an MCA. And at the end of the day, yes, do our market centers have all these other people? Absolutely. But when this company first started, that's all that was hired. And the company grew pretty damn well without some of the extra needs. The extra needs came when we started to become so big, we had to reevaluate, readjust, rebudget, because we're going to have to start hiring more key people. But guys, the 3 main hires of a market center are responsible for all those key hired people. And as you start to grow, you have to think about that. Who could be your next transaction coordinator? Your marketing person, your showing assistant, your assistant. I don't know where you are in your business. We talk about in the chapters about money, okay? And how much money that you would make if you just saved $100,000, which is my favorite thing to go to, because money, people only think about money in money. If I put $100 in front of you, you only think about what's in front of you. But when you're trying to have bigger conversations about money, most people get lost. I'm gonna have to say, I had to go through the economic model and the budget model about 900 ways till Tuesday in order for me to understand what Gary was talking about the first 3 years in leadership. And the simplest way really is the exact example in the book about putting $100,000 in the bank. And if you're getting 5% because it's just sitting there and you're making $5 grand, that might look appetizing to somebody, and some people that might say it's not worth it. And if you had 200,000 in there and you're making 10 grand, it might be worth it, it might not. But then we're also forgetting about taxes. And I laugh because how much would you have to make in your business for it to show up at 5,000? They tell you like about 150, 148,000, 143 minus 33 in taxes for you to get 5,000 of, like, we'll call it free money. And in our company, besides what we just talked about with, the Monday calls, where that works for you, passive income is right here at our company. We have profit share. Call it whatever you want. I actually call it, it's financial wealth. You have the opportunity to jump in on the financial wealth that Gary has, to be an investor, to be an owner. It's like, it's a stakeholder. It's a shareholder. If you tell somebody about the company, you know how it works. They have to write somebody's name down. And if they produce, you're making money. Now, did you have to do anything? No, you picked up a phone and said, Jamie, I want you to talk to Jeffrey. And maybe, by the way, you might have checked in with Jeffrey a couple of times to ensure that he was doing really well or if he needed anything. But the time spent on that for you to make what a capper's worth in each market center between, let's just say 2,700 to 3,300 based on numbers, you didn't have to work for that. It worked for you picking up the phone. And so the company has really given you an amazing foundation. And through the book, subconsciously, it actually gives you the little nuggets of what we provide here at our company to start you on that journey. Passive income, maybe you don't have money to go buy that 2-family, but you do have the ability to pick up the phone, and when you're doing a transaction, have a conversation about being a rock star and giving it to your team leader. How many of you have passive income right now where money's working for you? You don't have to do anything for it. You're sitting back. Okay. Now, how many of you would like to have that? Now, we talked about the Facebook ads. Somebody said something about the leads, right? How many times do you see ads like that in terms of want to make money? Want to stay at home? Want to just make phone calls and make money? Do you want to do this? There's always ads about this, but you could do it right now. Don't let the money sit in the bank account is really where we're going with it. But if that's what you need to do your first year to make the 5,000, to take that 5,000 to go put into what that next thing is, and that's your goal, there is no judgment. So be it. Go do it. It's just explaining to you the ways that if you think bigger, how it can actually work for you.
You know, Jamie, I think you made a good point early on where you said you need a coach. So if this is an area that you're struggling in where you want to get there, but you just don't know how, get a coach. And that could be somebody else in your world, maybe somebody in your family, maybe somebody at your market center, maybe somebody you hire. But if this is really important to you, where you want to build wealth and have different buckets of income come in, because you know, Gary Keller talks about that all the time. He talks about don't always live in just one bucket of income coming and make sure you have multiple. My goal was 6. I've increased that since I set that because I realized that I want more than that. And it's not about the money. It's about what the money will do for my daughter when she gets older and pay her for her college and such. It's not about me just looking for money. It's about what the money can do for it. So if you're having a challenge and you really just can't grasp how you're going to get there to build any kind of passive income or income itself, Jamie said it earlier, find somebody to hold you accountable. And you know what, in the book, the 12-week year, I don't know if anybody has read that one, the 12-week year, he talks about accountability, Jamie. And what he says is the word accountability, how many of you kind of like cringe a little bit when you hear accountability? Is it just me or is it some of you, anyone else? All right, Corinna, thank you. High five. Thank you. So the way he explained it was so good. He said, it's not accountability. It's taking ownership of what you say you're going to do. So how many of you need to take ownership on any of this that Jamie has gone over today or any of the sessions we've done? How many of you really need to take ownership of what you want to set? I see you, right? So do it, right? Get a coach, have somebody that's going to help you stick to your own, taking ownership of that. So Jamie, sorry, I just needed to.
No, that's the scariest part, guys. Remember, your business is a reflection of you, and yet we're afraid of our own reflection, just to be honest. We're afraid to put out what we really want, because then that actually really means you have to do some things you might not want to do to have what you really want to have. And that's what life is. That is what having a bigger life is. And that's why you're all here for one reason or another. It is pretty powerful. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like knowing what you want. Listen, you forget about the coach. Even if you just call somebody and have them hold you accountable to something small. I remember when Jen and I first met, you know, we used to text each other and say, I want you to text me and say this. Just text me and say this. And if I said I didn't do it, I really want you to just be like, how come you haven't done? Just ride me until I do what I need to do. And everyone operates differently, but I will say something. We're talking about money, money talks. When you write the check, it becomes a little bit more scary. When I write an accountability check about what I'm going to do, and I don't want to release $1,000 from my bank account, or 500 or even 100. It just depends on where you are financially. And you say, hold me accountable to this. And if I don't do this, cash the check. That's a game changer. So forget about me paying somebody right now. But if I'm looking at Callie, if Callie said, this is what I want, and I said, how much are you willing to lose if you don't do it? And she's like, I don't know. Give me $500. I'll hold the check right here in an envelope. And you bet your butt I'm going to not be your friend. But like Jen said, I'm going to hold you to the actions and the goal that you said that you wanted. I didn't want it. You wanted it. And I'm just here to make sure that you actually do it. And if you don't do it and you lose that money, that stinks. I just want to let you know. So one way or another. But so when do you get to do that? When you've reached the 7th level. That's really where it is. And so to bring all this together, you know, we start off small. You're the agent. Then from the agent, we're hiring our next person. And this is just a blueprint, guys. Don't get overwhelmed with the MREA. A lot of people are like the red book. It's a blueprint, and each page is a different, it's like building a house. It's just a different floor. And there's no judgment at which floor that you're on right now. And if you didn't do floor 2 right, go back to floor 2, please. Don't try to sugarcoat it and fix it. Just go back to floor 2 and restart it. And then eventually, if you really want to not just net $1 million, but you want to receive $1 million, the only way you're going to do that is with everything we talked about: sticking to a budget, staying focused to your 20%, time blocking, understanding how money can work for you versus you working for money, working on your business, taking time out to reevaluate and readjust your goals, not just the everyday tasks of working in your business, and making sure that you're surrounding yourself with great people that can help hold you accountable and get you where you want to go.
Jamie, amazing job. We didn't really have a ton of time for questions, answers, action plans. We are at 9:16, so we are going to wrap up today. If you do have any questions for Jamie, would you mind putting your email in the chat for everybody if they have any questions for you? And we will be sending out our recap email later today. And on Wednesday, as Randy reminded us, is our last session for this series. I'm having a blast with you guys. I'm going to be sad that Wednesday is our last time, yet we are bringing this back quarterly. So don't be afraid to take this again, because you will hear things differently the next time you take this session. We will see you Wednesday for our last session of this series. And Jamie, great job today. Thank you so much.
Everybody, have a great day.
Thank you. Check out that spreadsheet, guys.
We will. Thanks for sharing, Anthony.
Will do, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Hey everyone, it's Deb, and I created the expense tracker that went viral on TikTok.